Good evening. My name is Marc Tisdelle. I'm the town engineer in Stoughton. I've worked in Stoughton for about 4 years now, and today I have two traffic improvement projects that I'd like to discuss with you. Currently, these two projects are in the permitting process through the town. One would be the Town Square short-term improvements, and the second one would be short-term improvements to the Central and Pleasant Street intersection. The goals for both these projects are to economically and efficiently improve the pedestrian safety, the vehicular safety, and reduce congestion in both these projects. I would also like to announce that there will be a public hearing through the Board of Selectmen to hear these projects and to approve the projects or disapprove the projects on March 24th at 7 p.m. on the 3rd floor in Town Hall. With that said, we have a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to get right into the presentation. All right, so as I just discussed, the first project will be the Town Square short-term improvements. The study area is the Town Square. Everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with the Town Square. I'm going to get right into the existing deficiencies with the Town Square. These next 5 slides will discuss the existing deficiencies. Later on in the presentation, I will discuss some possible solutions that we are exploring to help improve traffic operations within the square. None of these issues are probably any news to anyone that lives or travels in Stoughton. The first deficiency would be the gridlock caused by left turns to Wyman Street. I'm sure everybody is familiar with this. This causes significant backups and queuing of vehicles into and beyond the southern intersection. Since the Town Square experiences heavy congestion, it often takes vehicles a long time to execute a left turn. Currently, there's signage to restrict left turns during the peak hours, but despite the signage, people still make these movements. Another issue with the Town Square. The merging conflict for southbound approach lanes at Washington Park and Pleasant intersection. Currently, the southern approach provides a shared left through lane and a through lane for those executing a left on a Pleasant Street or traveling southeast on onto Route 27, as well as channelized right turn lane for those continuing onto 138. The issue is that the southern approach provides 2 departure lanes for vehicles traveling southeast on Route 27, but only 1 receiving lane, which is a liability for the town. This lane drop forces vehicles to merge quickly into the receiving lane, which is not wide enough to accommodate 2 vehicles at once and causes a huge bottleneck. This is a huge safety concern that can equate to serious accidents. Another issue with the square, pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. First of all, there are really no bicycle accommodations, and from a pedestrian standpoint, there are no actuated signals in the center crosswalk. Next is the Porter Street approach. If you're coming to Porter Street and you see the signalization in front of you, this approach is controlled by 2 3-section signal heads with green, yellow, and red arrow indications. Vehicles are only allowed to turn right at this approach on a Washington Street. There's a green arrow that indicates vehicles are free to turn right. Vehicles are also permitted to turn right after stopping on the red arrow phase. There is signage indicating this. This approach confuses some drivers as they believe that the steady red light arrow indicates that they are not allowed to go until they are allocated green time. This equates to moderate queuing on Porter Street at certain times during the day. Another issue with the Town Square. Fortunately, there's a few of them. There is poor signal progression through the square. What this means, this essentially means the northern and southern signals aren't timed or coordinated effectively. Recently, our traffic engineers who have studied the Town Square found that the master controller box for the signals is operating in backup mode. The controller is being fixed as we speak now. We'll get right into the possible solutions. The project in front of the Board of Selectmen right now is to provide some immediate term improvements. Essentially, these improvements will be done for a temporary period for about 6 months, and there will be proper advertisement of these improvements. So the first improvement that we would propose is to restrict the Wyman Street left turns. We can easily do this by proposing a simple lane separator system and signage that is shown in the picture above. As you can see, it's superimposed on the existing conditions. This will improve vehicle progression throughout the northbound approach, as there will be no vehicle queues due to the left turn. This equates to less delay and congestion in the square. So you may be asking, where do vehicles go from Wyman Street if you're promoting left turns into and out of Wyman Street? The next few slides will explain these routes. The first route would be if you wanted to try to get to Wyman Street traveling from the north on Park Street. As you could see, you could travel north on Park Street, take a left on Kingsley Street, keep on going to Brockton Street, take a right turn onto Morton Street, travel north, and eventually get to Wyman Street. This slide shows if you were traveling north on Washington Street, you could take a left on Brock Street, take a right on Morton Street, and access Wyman Street. This slide pretty much says, well, how about if I drive by those two options, how else could I get there? You could drive north on Pearl Street, take a left on School Street, come down Rose Street, come down Porter Street, and then take a right on Wyman Street. This slide represents if you wanted to take come north out of the Wyman Street. So if you wanted to take a left on Wyman Street, obviously you can't do that now under these proposed conditions. So how could you actually get north onto 138? You would take a right out of Wyman Street, come down Washington Street, take a left onto Kingsley Street, take a left onto Park Street, then travel northbound. Another improvement that we're proposing is to provide bicycle sharrows, which are painted marks in the square, in the travel lanes. These are universal marks that denote that bicyclists will also be sharing the lanes. This is also, in compliance with the town's complete street policy that they recently approved. The next slide shows the Porter Street approach and how we would actually improve that approach. As we previously mentioned, the red arrow presents confusion to some drivers as to what movements they are allowed to take, even though there is a sign that states right turn on red after stop. This periodically causes minor queues and delays on Porter Street. By changing the red arrow to a solid red ball, many drivers could relate to this, and then they could turn right on red after the stop. Another option would be just by keeping the red arrow the way it is, not changing it to a red ball, but adding another sign that says right turn on red arrow after stop. All right, so the next slide is talking about improving the signal progression through the square. Essentially what we would do is optimize the existing signal timing by fixing the master control box and retiming the signal timing. The next improvement is a rather large improvement, and that would be eliminating the Pearl Street approach from the northern signal. This will reduce the northern signal from a 3-phase signal to a 2-phase signal. We can now apply the extra green time to the northbound approach for vehicles turning left on Porter Street. This will help reduce queues and delays and equate to a more efficient square. The next couple slides visually show you what we could do on a temporary basis for the 6-month period on how we could quadrant off the southbound lane and restrict Pearl Street to one way. Essentially, you would do this with some barricades and some barrels and some proper signage. That's the first slide. And that's the second slide showing a sign, road closed. Now you may ask, where do I go if I'm traveling south on Pearl Street and looking to get to the square? Option 1 would be vehicles traveling south on Pearl can take a left onto School Street and then a right onto Washington Street. Option 2 would be vehicles could take a right onto School Street and travel westbound on the School to Canton Street and then to Porter Street. This will increase traffic at an already dangerous intersection at Canton and School, which we all know about. This slide shows a an aerial image of the Canton and School Street intersection. As you can see, it's got some weird geometry to it, and it's got 5 roads coming into it. This slide shows the poor sight distance looking to the right if you were traveling westbound on School Street and stopping at the intersection. And this would be, looking to the left with the poor sight distance to the left. In the last 3 to 4 years, there's been 79 collisions. 50% of them have been from vehicles traveling westbound on School Street into the Canton and School Street intersection. To help improve the safety of the Canton and School Street intersection, the town could temporarily direct traffic from School Street to Rose Street and restrict westbound traffic from Rose Street to Canton Street with signage and barricades. This would eliminate the dangerous westbound approach to the Canton and School Street intersection. This intersection has been in the top 100 dangerous intersections list for the state for many years due to the previous collisions and deaths at the intersection. This slide shows how you could get to the town square if you're traveling south. You could come down Pearl Street, take a right onto School, and come down, traveling south on Pearl, take a right onto School, take a left on the Rose Street, and then travel Porter Street to the square. This slide shows if you were making restricting the westbound vehicles on School Street out of the Canton and School Street intersection and funneling those vehicles down to Rose Street also. That would tremendously improve the safety of the Canton and School Street intersection. So this would be another benefit of actually making these improvements to the town square. Questions been asked through this process. How do I get to Town Hall if I'm restricting Pearl Street to be one way? The existing slide shows the slide in front of you shows the existing traffic flow patterns around Town Hall. The upper drive is for the public to park around. It's one-way access. The lower drive is also one-way access. Both accesses are from Pearl Street. On the proposed conditions, which this slide shows, you could still access both the upper drive, or just the upper drive from Pearl Street, and we would be keeping the upper drive traffic flow the same. The public could still park up there, but we would be changing the flow direction of the lower drive. It's still one way, but going the opposite direction. For vehicles traveling on Porter Street, they can now access the upper drive and park in the public parking spaces. Also, another option would be to eliminate the current bollards and the handicap spots from the center of the parking area, from the Rose Street employee parking lot area. This would improve traffic flow through the Town Hall lot. Public people could travel through the employee parking lot, travel around the Town Hall and to the upper drive. We would obviously propose relocating the 2 handicap spots closer to the building. The last improvement would be eliminate the merge conflict. The merge conflict in the southern approach in the town square. We could do this very easily by just making the left-hand lane a left-only lane, and the right lane keep it a through lane. Therefore, now you won't have 2 vehicles fighting to get into one lane southbound. So should the town find that the immediate term changes are yielding positive results, the following solutions should be considered as a more permanent feature. As we just talked about the merge conflict, if the town saw some benefits of doing that and saw a safer situation, we can make that permanent. We would do that by going back to the Board of Selectmen after the 6-month trial period and asking for their approval to do that. By doing that, we would also request making the southern island a consistent width of 3 feet. So we would actually change the geometry of the island. This would increase the bypass lane width for vehicles traveling on 138. So the vehicles traveling on 138 would have more of a better chance to get through and provide less of a queue throughout the square. We would permanently restrict Wyman lefts. We could do this by removing the temporary lane separator system that I previously showed you, and we could extend the southern island northerly up to the crosswalk. To permanently improve pedestrian accommodations in the square, the center crosswalk is definitely asking for actuated pedestrian signals. Currently there are none. So somebody who wants to cross the crosswalk would hit the button. There would be a signal there to stop vehicles. It would make a much safer crossing through the square. By yielding positive results in the 6-month period, the Board of Selectmen could approve to make Pearl Street one-way. If Pearl Street was made one-way permanently, we would have to do some restriping of Pearl Street, get the center lines out of there. Also, we could propose parking spaces on the southbound lane, which is a much need of the downtown, as we all know. This slide just summarizes what we've just talked about for the overall improvements to the town square. And please, I'd like to mention that if you have any questions at all on this project, please come into my office. I'm on the 2nd floor. I'm the town engineer, Marc Tisdelle. Okay, now we just finished talking about the town square traffic improvements. Now we're on to the Central and Pleasant Street traffic improvements. Again, I would like to mention on March 24th, there's a public hearing with the Board of Selectmen to hear these improvements and to vote on them. If you have any opinions or comments, please come to that meeting and voice your opinion. I'll get right into the details on the Central and Pleasant Street intersection improvements now. The first slide shows the study area. It's the Central and Pleasant Street intersection. Labels the roadways. I'm sure everybody is familiar with this area. I'm going to get into the existing deficiencies of the intersection. The first slide shows that there's a lack of vehicle detection at the intersection. Currently, there's no vehicle detection at this intersection, and as a result, the signal is operating under pre-timed or fixed time control. A lack of detection causes the signal to continually run the designated maximum green time allotted for each phase, 30 seconds, regardless of the number of vehicles present on the approach. This results in unnecessary delays, congestion, and increased emissions. Detection allows the control of the intersection to be efficiently allocated on a cycle-to-cycle basis and can compensate for unplanned fluctuations in traffic demand throughout the course of a day. The next issue is the lack of exclusive left turn lanes for the westbound approach. After conducting a left turn warrant analysis using the volumes provided by OCPC traffic counts, a left turn lane is warranted for the westbound approach. Infield observations and a model of the intersection show excessive queues on the westbound approach during the AM peak period hour. This is attributed to left-turning vehicles that are unable to find a suitable gap in opposing traffic. Since there is no storage lane for these left-turning vehicles, they block the lane to through and right-turning vehicles and cause extensive backups. Extensive queuing can promote aggressive and distracted driving potential, as drivers are often waiting multiple cycles to get through the intersection. The next issue is the intersection geometry. Central Street is a designated truck route for large vehicles trying to reach Route 27 and 138 west of the intersection of Route 24 east of the intersection. Traffic counts conducted by the Old Colony Planning Council reported 9% heavy vehicle volume for the southbound right turn movement in the AM peak period hour. During an infield site visit, it was observed that the trucks and heavy vehicles have a difficult time executing the southbound right turn from Pleasant Street to westbound Central Street due to the existing tight curb radius in the northwest corner of the intersection. It was observed several times that the large vehicles will swing wide and encroach on the eastbound left turn lane on Central Street, a maneuver that could potentially cause several types of collisions, including angle, side swipes, and possibly even head-on collisions. Unfortunately, another deficiency is excessive queue of Central Street vehicles on Central Street approaches. Traffic observation shows a considerable amount of traffic executing the eastbound and westbound left turn maneuvers. During morning and evening peak periods, it is rare for both westbound and eastbound left turning vehicles to see an adequate gap in conflicting traffic. Field observations show that at times only 1 or 2 vehicles can pass through the intersection, therefore queues for these approaches can escalate quickly. The existing permissive phasing promotes aggressive driving behaviors in which drivers frequently run the red light or immediately make the left turn as soon as the traffic light turns green. Conversation with police officials indicated this maneuver is a major cause of collisions at the intersection. The next issue, there is lack of time of day plans. The controller for these signals is currently running max screen times throughout all times of the day, every day of the week. Therefore, it does not effectively serve traffic demands during the morning and evening peak periods, midday off-peak periods, and weekends and nights. Another issue with the intersection is there's outdated signal equipment. There's equipment missing visors, and some of the signage does not meet the state and federal requirements. This intersection also has pedestrian accommodation issues. Some approaching sidewalks are in poor condition. The paved surface of the intersection is in fair condition. There's a poor or crumbling curbing in some areas. There are utility poles and signal poles in the middle of some walkways, making it challenging for pedestrians to move. None of these pedestrians curb ramps are compliant with ADA standards, as they do not have detectable warning strips for the visually impaired. Also, the pedestrian crossing signal heads have no audio alerts, as they do not provide a countdown notifying pedestrians of safe time remaining to cross. Just like the town square, there are no bicycle accommodations. In order to comply with the town's complete street policies and statewide initiatives, we are proposing, well, as you'll see later, we're proposing bicycle sharrows. And again, a lot of the signage around the intersection and at the intersection is outdated. Now we're going to talk about the potential short-term and economic solutions. So the short-term improvements, this plan shows an overall plan of the intersection. The first improvement that we're proposing is to improve the truck turning radius issue for trucks coming southbound on Pleasant Street and turning right onto Central Street. We are proposing to push back the stop bar by 20 feet on the eastbound approach on Central Street. We will adjust the pavement markings accordingly. This plan shows the proposed improvement. The second improvement we're looking to do is add a exclusive left turn lane for Central Street westbound approach along with appropriate signage and pavement markings. This will increase the level of service, the volume to capacity ratio, and the overall intersection delay. Another improvement, as we previously talked about, is improving all the signs and adding bicycle sharrows to make drivers aware that bicycles also share the road. Another improvement would be upgrading the signal equipment, replacing the visors, and the long-term improvements would be to actually upgrade the actuated signals so they have audio alerts and countdowns. We also will be talking about upgrading the signal intelligence. We will have our traffic engineers implement new timings and time-of-day plans to better serve AM and PM periods while there is still no detection. This will cut down unnecessary queuing and equate to a better level of service. In my opinion, the best upgrade to the intersection and the best bang for your buck is to install a video detection system. Detection allows the control of the intersection, green times, to be effectively allocated on a cycle-to-cycle basis and can compensate for unplanned fluctuations in traffic demand throughout the day. For instance, the current intersection has preset timing, and if there were no vehicles waiting at one approach, then the light would stay green for the full 30 seconds. Detection will switch the green time to an approach that needs it. By adding the left turn lanes, the dedicated left turn lanes, we would also install new signal heads for the eastbound and westbound left turn lanes. These signal heads will have the standard left turn green arrow that you typically see. In conjunction with installing the dedicated left turn lanes going eastbound and westbound on Central Street, we will be installing 3 new signal heads as I just discussed. But we will also be upgrading the signal intelligence to accommodate for the left turn green arrows. This slide pretty much summarizes what we just talked about for the improvements. Again, there will be a much more detailed presentation at the Board of Selectmen meeting on March 24th, explaining all the details of this presentation. There will actually be moving models and simulation that our traffic engineers have prepared. I urge you to certainly come to the meeting and voice your opinion, as some of these changes will make a big impact in the town. Thank you very much.